Okay, so now we're up to Ayin Chesam and Aleph, 3 lines down from the top. So the Gemara starts off with Rachamim Sa'ara from yesterday about the beds, right? Okay, so Afilu Hu Ima B'mita, right? Even if meaning if he throws the get to the wife, but it's in his property, and even if the get is if is in her bed, right? But meaning not her bed, the bed that she's in his house, the get's not a good get. That's only talking about if she's sleeping in his bed. But if she's sleeping in her own bed, megareshes, and she is divorced. Why? Because the bed, he threw it into her bed. Her bed is considered like her property, and Mamela, she's kind of the get. In his bed, she's not megareshes, but mita shalah megareshes. But if she's in her own bed, it's megareshes. She's divorced. So the Gemara asks, Pasha the Kasha, mita shalah megareshes. In her bed, she's divorced. Now, clearly, we're talking about where this bed is in the husband's rishus, right? Otherwise, what's the chiddush? Of course, she's divorced if it's in her own rishus. So we're talking about where she's megareshes. Kelo shelakeach, but it's just meicherhu. But that's the utensils of a lekeach in the rishus of the meicher, right? Which shel shmamis shamas minok kelo. So must be we're learning from this the kelo shelakeach, but it's just meicher kind of lekeach. If the purchaser has his utensils in the property of the seller, and he puts the stuff into his utensil, then he's kind it. Right? Meaning, if you're in a guy's, one of the ways to be kind of something is by your chutzner being kind it or whatever your property, right? So what happens if that thing is inside his rishus, in the seller's rishus? So does that still work? So clearly, our Gemara is saying that when this bed, which belongs to the wife's bed, she bought it from Ichveis, and it was her bed, and it was sitting in his rishus. So we're saying that she's kind it, right? So that's a kli of a lekeach. That's a kli of a lekeach in the house of the meicher, and we're saying that she's kind of the get.
Yeah.
So we say leitricha digavaya asara, talking about where the bed is 10 tefachim high. So since it's 10 tefachim high, therefore it's considered her own rishus. It's considered its own rishus that belongs to her, and Mamela, she's kind of the get. Yeah. So Gemara asks, but the bed, yes, it's very nice that it's 10 tefachim high, but it has the legs, right? So Gemara answers, Amakam kari lokapti inchi. People are not makir on that the legs are in his rishus. Meaning, you have the bed that's 10 tefachim high, sitting inside the husband's rishus. So Mamela, that's enough, right? Meaning, the legs are there. No, he doesn't care that the legs are in his rishus, right? So therefore, it's not considered. It's not considered. No, it's not. I think they're out. Yeah, fine, okay. So that's basically what we're talking about. We're talking about where the bed belongs to her in the Baal's rishus, and then it's okay. You open the shade, you have what? Yeah, fine. We have Naftali liners in the house, as they say. Okay, fine. Next case, outside the house. If he throws the get into her lap or into her bag, she's divorced. Why? Same thing we just said. If she's standing in the husband's rishus, so it's very nice that he threw it into her, right? But how is it considered? Why is that a kinyan? It's in the rishus of the husband, right? It's fine. Yeah. So we're talking about where the basket was hanging on her. It's where it was hanging on her. Right? So Mamela, since it was hanging on her, it's not considered like it's in the rishus of the seller, or in this case, the rishus of the husband. Right? So meaning, if she'd be holding it, then it would be an issue. But since here it's hanging on her, that's already the way I'm understanding it. It's already too far removed from his rishus, because she's standing in his rishus, and then the basket is hanging on her, and he's putting the get into the basket. That's far removed enough away from his rishus that she would be kind of that. The same din would be if it's tied, even if it's not hanging from her. Meaning she's holding the basket, but I guess it would be tied onto her. Not. I'm assuming the difference between hanging and tying, because hanging is also tied onto her. No, I guess it's just like wrapped around her, like with a guard. Fine. That's a second shot.
Something can be hanging loose, but let's say the thing she carries a baby in, that would be very tight.
Right. So that would be like one of those backpacks, right?
Yeah, or a front, carrying baby.
Or whatever in the front. Yeah, so that would be.
You keep it tight. Yeah.
Right. So that would be the nafkamin and l'char. Yeah, very good. Third shot. Ravada barava. Amar kagan shahisa kalsa unechas lebein yar koiseh. It's talking about where it was in between her thighs, right? So Rashi says basically it's sitting on the ground, but she's sitting on the ground and she has this basket or this pocketbook or whatever it is sitting on the ground, but between her legs. So Mamela, he's in his eyes, that's her own rishus. That's her own rishus. Even though it's not, it's on the ground and it's on his rishus, but since it's between her legs, so Mamela, it's considered like her own rishus. A fourth teretz from Shashi bar Rav Dimi Amar, it's talking about where the husband was a pocketbook seller, and amongst the place of all the baskets hanging for sale was his wife's basket too, basket, pocketbook, whatever it is. So Mamela, that whole makam in his eyes is considered a separate place, and therefore, if she puts the get in there, that's as if he put the get into her rishus. Rav Yochanan Amar, a fifth teretz, makam cheka kanila, the makam of her lap, that's her own. Makam kalsa kanila, and the place of her basket is also kani to her, right? So Mamela, that's why it works. That's why it works. So Amar Rava, my time is Rav Yochanan. What's Rav Yochanan's reason? Fishein adam makbid loya makam cheka loya makam kalsa. A person's not makbid on his wife's lap or on his wife's basket. It seems like Rabbi Yochanan is saying a pasha to teretz, right? Meaning that a husband doesn't care where his wife is putting her stuff.
Yeah, but now they're getting divorced. It's not the same thing. Why is it the same thing?
Yeah. Well, I guess in order to facilitate a divorce, he's still letting her have it. Don't confuse Naphtali with the get and the kinyan happening at the same time. Right? You're right. I mean, maybe he doesn't want to give it to her that spot. I hear, but l'chara that would be after. L'chara that would be after they're divorced already, right? I think. But okay, Tanya Nami Hachi Zarku La L'Say Cheka L'Say Kalsa L'Say Kodavar Shehu Bekalsa, or put any or Shavar Shehu Kik Kalsa, or into anything. Doesn't have to necessarily be a basket. It could be a pocketbook. Areza Megareshes, she's divorced. Kodavar Shehu Kalsa Lasuye. What do you mean? Anything that's like a Kalsa. Lasuye Taska Ta'achla Batimri. It's coming to include a like a basket that you eat dates, right? So meaning it sounds like I don't know, what is an example of this?
A basket, do you eat dates?
A date,
shopping bag.
The fruit. What do you say?
A shopping bag.
It's is that what you think it is? I thought because
Like a bag that you hold around your belt.
You mean like a fanny pack?
Like something like that.
Ah, like where you're always keeping your food in there.
I don't know, stuff like that. I don't know.
It's his wife's Lululemon bag.
Oh, very good. That's what I meant.
Yeah. Very good. He's in touch with the Einekloch. Yeah.
I mean, say that was bought by the Zaidi, versteht zich?
Oh, yeah.
By the Alta Zayden, not by the Zayden. What do you mean?
Oh,
Zayda ain't buying it.
Then we got
Zayda
nervous there.
Very good. Yeah, so I mean, it's basically, you're right. So it's like a fanny pack, but so Kalsa's also. It's a pocketbook. Okay, whatever. It's something that she's constantly using. That's what it means. Now, I don't know why that's different than a basket. A basket she's not constantly using. I'm not sure what's the chiddush. The Gemara is trying to say what's the extra chiddush, Avi, right? Like, so what's more of a chiddush? Why would you think that the get shouldn't be a get in that thing?
I was thinking, I wrote it down last time. In Yerushalayim, the ladies always on Shabbos and Yom Tov, they would wear maybe even my chassan, but Shabbos and Yom Tov, they would wear a special apron on top of the dress. It was only for Shabbos and Yom Tov. All the ladies, they had an apron that they wore.
Oh, the Yerushalmi ladies, the white aprons, right? Yeah. You think it had pockets?
Maybe I don't know. I'm just saying.
But I wonder. I'm just understanding.
Like an extra baggage. I don't know.
Art Scroll finishes the line by saying it's something that's constantly there for her personal use.
So
it's another example of something that's usually hers that she's constantly using for herself. This is like a snack bag. It's like her personal snack bag.
I'm familiar with snack bags. At least that much. But I don't understand. What would be the chiddush though?
Because before it was on her. It doesn't have to be on her.
Doesn't have to be on her?
Right. This, he says here, the fact that the husband grants her rights to place her sewing basket anywhere in his property. It doesn't have to be on her. That's the chiddush.
So that's the chiddush. Yeah, it doesn't have to be on her.
But the says here earlier, that the man bringing his wife into his home is a right for her to bring her small items for personal use. It doesn't have to be on her. She's allowed to bring, her makeup bag. She doesn't carry it on her. She puts it in the powder room. You can put it in there.
Interesting. Okay, so then I'm missing that part. Who did I say that from? Did I Stam say the pshat? Okay, good. I wasn't sure what the chiddush was.
That's why I'm reading it.
So Naftali's learning pshat in the art scroll.
I may not be reading it right.
I don't know if Ami Khan, are you learning the pshat in art scroll like that too? He's learning the foot on the art scroll. The pshat is
note 13.
that this Taska thing is not on her. So Mamela was saying that it's still a good get since she's constantly snacking, like you were saying. Okay, all right.
That's art scroll according to Rabbi Yochanan.
But okay, see.
So meaning that's the chiddush then, that even if this basket's not on her or whatever this thing is, right? The snack bag is not on her. It's still considered that it's a good get, like it's in her property. Okay, fine. So this next Mishnah is a major Mishnah because, and we discussed this in the beginning of the Masechta quite a few times, but we never get to the Iker one until right here. Amar lo kinsi shtar chayv. When we mentioned it Aga, but Amar lo kinsi shtar chayv zeh. He tells his wife, here's a shtar chayv, like here's an IOU. Aishem, right? Because he's right. So that the Gemara before said that he didn't have the guts to give his wife a get. So he told her, here's a shtar chayv. Aishem matzasem chayrev, or if she found the get behind him, and then Kaira, she reads it, Daf Yomi Gittin, it's a get. You can imagine like in the movies. Her husband drops a piece of paper on the floor. And she picks it up and she says, "Whoa, look at that! Look at that! He's divorcing me, right?" So ain't a get. It's not a get. Why not? And this is a major fact. It's also a pella that till the end of the Masechta, it took so long to say this. He has to tell her that this is her get. It's not enough to give her a get and fool her. He has to actually verbalize and tell her.
So I don't understand.
This is a get.
The cost of love and not son. It doesn't say anywhere for Omer. It says you have to write it and give it. It doesn't say anywhere that you have to say. Right. Where is the saying? Why is that affect the get?
Yeah. So that's a good question. Meaning, where do you see it says V'Omer? What he's asking, it says V'Nosan What does it say again?
No, but I looked at the Torah Shalom. It says Kigachish Isha, Timsachem Beina, Ki Matzah Ba'ervis Dava, V'Katzav La Seita Creases, V'Nasan B'Yada. It doesn't say anywhere V'Oymar.
Right.
It says you write it and you give it to her.
Right. So this one I looked in the article, in the footnote. This one I did, and it says there that the V'Shilcha, they say from the Rambam that the word V'Shilcha is mashma, that he has to send her out. And how does he send her out? Verbally.
Why? Mechates, prove it to me.
That I don't know. That I don't know how they're learning that V'Shilcha means verbally. But
No,
I mean,
what do you expect? They put a stamp on her and tell the mailman take her away? You gotta have some kind. It doesn't make sense when you put her in a box.
What do you mean? You
That's
throw
it.
the gat at her and you tell her, that's it, finished. You don't have to. What? Where did it say Omer?
So you see, saying Shilcha is a shot. Omer.
So I throw it on her bed and
And you yell at her, "Get the heck out of here!"
No, what do you mean? It doesn't say anywhere Amira. Where does it say anywhere about Amira? Where does it talk about in the Torah about Amira? I don't know. It bothers me very much.
No, because Zev, how do you send somebody out of your house without telling them?
You throw them on the bed.
How
You
do you
throw the
make
get on the bed.
a
You throw the bed. You throw the get on the bed, like we said in the Mishnah, right? What's the problem? Or you give her a.
Maybe she doesn't have to read.
She'll get somebody to read it for her. It's not. Come on. Or you give her.
Why should she get someone to read? What is she doesn't know how to read? What
I don't know. He does.
There's something on her bed.
He has to give her the get. He doesn't have to say anything.
Because
the cuts of love and not son. That's what.
What's Vishalach Mabesa mean?
Shalach Mabesa means you send her with the star. It has to be.
What do you mean send her? What does that mean?
Maybe that means with us.
No, I hear what he's saying. It's like, you can get what's it called when they deliver to your house to throw you out? What's it called?
Eviction notice.
Eviction. There we go.
Eviction.
Naftali's here. He should say eviction notice. You don't have to tell them, right? You just deliver a piece of
They
paper.
anyway say they don't know.
And then they say they don't know how to read.
Right. It's evidence.
You're right. I don't know. You're right. From an eviction notice, a riot to use them.
No, I just don't understand where it's coming from.
I hear. Okay, so because they're learning the pshat and v'shilcha. The pshat and v'shilcha is that you have to verbally send her out. That's what it is.
She has to know she's divorced. She won't know until you tell her to leave the house.
That's what it seems. They're learning that it has to be a verbal notification. Right?
If I type up a cover letter that says I'm here,
what me is Zev, when he married her, if he just put the ring in the finger, does he have to say anything to her? Yes.
That's a good.
Marriage and divorce and
What's Abba? So you bring a raya from Kedushin to Gittin? Is that what?
Like every other rabbi you ever heard make a speech in your life. Yeah, I'm saying that. Yeah.
But you Rabban, there's proof. Naftali, right? The Yotza V'Haisa, right? Makish Havaya to Yitzia. We always compare.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear that's a good. That's a good shot.
Abba.
Very good. He's masking. He's masking.
No, I hear. I didn't.
Okay, good.
Just remember, Baron, I helped save you.
No. It has nothing to do with you, Naftali. I'm telling you, nothing to do with you.
I brought the Yatsa Haisa.
Yeah. Okay, right. So that's case number one that you have to say it. Nothing beyond the Yeshena. Right? Let's say he put the get into her hand. He's a real coward, the guy. He's a real coward, right? He takes, while his wife is sleeping, he takes the get and puts it into her hand, right? Nira, and then she wakes up. You could just envision this. Kaira, and she reads it. She thinks she's getting a love letter from her husband, but Kaira, she reads it, Fareo Gittin, it's her get, right? Ain't a get, at sheyomer lo hagitech. It's also not a get until he has to tell her that it's your get. We'll see in the Gemara why we need two cases. Fine. So Zog the Gemara or ask the Gemara, Ki Amar lo hagitech my havi, and let's say he does tell her, right? So what's pshat? Havale tli getech me al gabi karka. Meaning that's just no different than saying here's your get, take it off the ground, which we know is not good. Meaning a husband has to hand the get. We mentioned this a few times, right? That a husband has to hand the get to the wife or to the shliach of the wife. There has to be a handing. He can't throw the get on the floor and say, here, pick up your get. So basically what happened here is that he gave, he's saying that karka is going to be kindness for her.
Right.
Here he's what he did. she found the get. There was no Nesina. It was sticking out of the back of her. The first case. The first case. The get was.
You can't do that on her property.
What?
You can't do that.
Is he stopped saying take it from the Rishus Harabim?
But I'm saying, but you could do that in the Netzah.
No, you have to put it there. You have to tell.
I can throw it there. It's like
Correct.
From the ground.
Correct. Right. So basically, by him giving the get to her while she's sleeping, right, or she finds the get, she already has the get. Now the get is not a good get because he never told her anything. Now she has the get in her hand. Then he tells her, by the way, that's your get. So that's no different than telling her, take your get off the ground. Right? If the husband says to the wife, take the get from the ground, he said nothing. Right? So how could it be? Again, the technicals here is that since he gave the get before he said it, and then he tells his wife, this is your get, so then it's the equivalent of telling her to take it off the ground. So the Gemara says, we're talking about where she slipped the get from his back, right? Meaning he had the get in his pocket, let's say. So she went and took it from his body. She didn't get it off the floor. We explained the Mishnah where the get fell out of his pocket and she picked it off the floor. No one's saying no. She pickpocketed him. She saw it sticking out of his pocket, so she grabbed it. So Gemara says, even if she slips it out, we still need v'nasan b'yada. He has to put it into her hand. V'lekon, you don't have that, right? So Gemara says, what he did is that he turned himself, and she slipped it out from his pocket. Meaning he made a move.
He made a
her.
football move.
Correct, right? Yeah. He basically, right. He made like a twist to sort of show, like, here, take this out of my pocket.
Like the Gemara on Shabbos with the onion,
Okay.
And that has a din Nesina, you understand that?
I know I don't understand it. To be honest with you, I don't understand it. But
Right. Okay.
but at least he's doing a Maisa. That's the way I understand it. At least he's doing a proactive Maisa. At least he's involved epis. Mashenkin, if she picks it up from behind him, then he's not involved. That's the way I understand it.
So if I put it in again in a fan and I blow it to you, it's good. Yeah, okay.
Maybe if you consider that an extension of the hand. Yeah,
Zev, you should have written that song for Paul Simon. You could have got very good ideas.
It was before my time. Paul.
Not before your time.
He was during your time, Zev.
He was? All right.
Yes.
When was he? The 70s, 60s?
Definitely 70s. I don't know. He could be in the 60s too, but definitely in the 70s too.
All right. I was too little to know.
All right. Tani Nami Hachi Amar Allah Kinsi Shtar Chayv Zeh.
The song I'm talking about, he made in the 90s. No.
Oh, that could be. I don't know. Okay, so Tani Nami Amar Allah Kinsi Shtar Chayv Zeh. He said to her, take the shtar chayv, or she slipped it out from behind him. Karasa and she read of Arehu Gita. And I get that. Hagitech, right? So now this adds on to our Mishnah. It's not a get until he says to her, Hagitech. No, right? Divrei Rebbe. That's Shitas Rebbe. He has to take it back, go back, give it to her, and say it's her get. Right? So, meaning that's what we're adding on to our case, right? Now and then it's Pashut that our Mishnah is going with Rebbe, not Rav Shimon ben Elazar, right? Because our Mishnah doesn't say that whole second part. Fine. If he put it in her hand and she was sleeping, Niura, she wakes up with Kaira and she reads of and she looks at it and it's a get. Ain't a get at Shiyamullah. Right? It's the same two cases as our Mishnah, but now we have a machlokes where he has to actually take it back and give it back to him. But and we need both of these cases. Why? If we said in the first case where he fooled her and said it's a shtar chayv, that Rebbe said there that he doesn't have to go back and repeat himself, because she's a bas drusa, right? Meaning she's not sleeping, she's up. So theoretically, she could get divorced if he would just tell her. Right? So since Lamaisi did a Nesina, and all he's missing is an Amira, so that the Amira he could do afterwards. But if he put into her when she's sleeping, the La Basi Grushi, she's not a Bas Gerish in there because she's not conscious. Whatever, she's sleeping. Maybe he'd be but maybe in the first case he'd be moided to Rebbe that there because she was a Bas Gerish and since she was up, and maybe he could just give it to say the Amira later. So tzricha, that's why you need both cases. So Amarova, Kosav la get. The guy wrote a get to his wife, and Nasnu biyad avda, and he gave it to her Eved, Yoshan, who was sleeping, but Mushamarta, she's watching. So basically, she's sitting there, her Eved is sleeping, and the guy puts the get into the Eved's hands. I raise a get, it's a get. Right? Why? Because it's like a chatzar mishtamaris. The Eved belongs to her, and he put the get into something that's in her property's hands. Near, but if the Eved is up, ain't a get, it's not a get to have the chatzar mishtamaris shaloi l'daita. That's a chatzar mishtamaris, right? Because the Eved will protect the get, but it's shaloi l'daita. Right? Why is it shaloi l'daita? Because he could just walk away. She can't control him when she's sleeping. So what? But he could fight her.
You can't give it to her, Evan?
What?
It's not her property. It's not her property. It's not
correct.
Her Evan,
not when he's up. Not when he's up. It's not considered mishtameres enough. He's an independent entity. He's an Evid. He can just stiff her whenever he wants.
And a shliach?
Shliach. She has to appoint the shliach. If she appointed the Eved as a shliach, okay, that's a shayla whether an Eved can be the shliach. But if she appointed him, fine. Right?
Why is shlichus and chatzah mishtameres? Meaning shlichus, the guy can walk away with it and he can throw it in the ocean. Why do we allow shlichus to be koina, but we don't allow Eved, which is yours, which is your karka, be koiner it for you immediately?
What are you saying?
Why shlichus? Why do we say by shlichus that could be that the shlich can walk away and do something, but a shlich we say that's not a problem to give it over. But to put it into my Eved hand who's up, why can't we say that the Eved is which is your karka, which is your? Why can't we say that it's kind of you immediately?
Because here she's not the shliach, I think.
He's asking what I asked.
I understand, but he's not a shliach.
He's asking why does shlichus work and this doesn't work. So you say because you appointed him.
Right.
That's why. That's the answer.
When you make a shliach, the shliach is kemaisa.
And why is your own Eved kemaisa? Just because he can walk away the minute it hits. The minute it hits the Eved's hand.
No, that's exactly what the Gemara is saying.
Shliach has to do what you told him. When he took the shlichus, he's doing what you told him to do.
Yeah, but the shlich can walk away, but it's not. But
it doesn't matter. He's still doing what he told him. He walks away. It's still part of the shlichus. He went to get himself a soda. It doesn't still part of the shlichus.
Meaning he has his own das. The Evid has his own das. You can't make him. You can't consider that karka because it's not mishtameres.
And why is the shlichus has his own das too? He doesn't necessarily.
No, but he still, no matter what das he has, he still has the das to deem his makabel the shlichus. He took the $100 from you to do the job you gave him. So it doesn't matter. He has das. Yeah, he goes and eats lunch, but fine. He's still Isaac in your shlichus.
But he's an independent mind. He can walk away.
Yeah, but he didn't forget about the shlichus.
Who says he's going to do the shlichus?
The world is based on people doing things that they makabel.
An Eved can't do it. An Eved is not her property because it has its own brain. That's a pshat. You can't say it's like karka.
Okay.
Anyways, okay, we gotta go back to so Yoshan. So that's the first case. So Yoshan Mashmarta, right? So Gemara asks if he's sleeping and she's watching him. That's considered a chotzer mahaleches. because he could walk around. The chatzim malechas like kana. Obviously, he's sleeping, so he can't walk around. But since he theoretically could, so then the chatzim malechas is not kind of a chitem a yashan shani. You say, well, he's sleeping. So since he's sleeping, he's not mehaleches. He's not moving. If it would be walking, you're not kaina. Amir v'yashiv like kana. So then, when it's standing or sitting, is also not kaina. Right. So how can you say that this guy is? It's a get.
Sleeping is the same as standing or sitting.
What?
Sleeping is the same as standing or sitting.
That's what it's saying.
Sleeping, you're not conscious. You can't walk, but sitting or standing. I'm saying. Why can't
no, the point is now we're on to a different thing. Here it's a chatzim mahaleches. We're trying to say it's a chatzim mahaleches, so it can be walking around. So the Gemara says it doesn't work as a kinyan. So then we say, what do you mean? Well, let's say he's standing.
Car?
Yeah, car would be a chatzim mahaleches. So, or a person is a chatzim mahaleches, right? So we say, okay, but even when he's sleeping, and even when he's standing, because he's not walking, and even when he's sitting, he's not walking. So even then, right? So we say, even then, it doesn't work. So our answer, the halacha is we're talking about when he's tied up. That's when the eved. That's when you're cutting the eved. Only when he's tied up. If he's not tied up, it doesn't work.
You're using him to build the wall of your to be his sukkah.
Right, or a lechi for rachman, or a lechi, right? Use him as a lechi, right?
Or you're locking him up in the yard.
Whatever it is. So then that's the only time the eved would work. Other than that, he won't work. I mean, not work, meaning it won't work as a kinyan.
When he's sleeping or awake? Tied up. He has to be tied up, he could be awake.
Oh, so that's a shaila. When he's sleeping? Is he sleeping?
When he's sleeping?
Right. So the question: are we talking about an eved that's up now, or just sleeping?
I think from the way it went, the sleeping is okay.
That's a machlaikis. It's a machlaikis. It's a machlaikis how to learn pshat in this. Does he have to be up? Because once he's tied up, so why can't he be up?
Right, I'm saying.
Right, but others
he's not
no.
an independent mind anymore. That's
he still knows, and that's the thing. No, he still has an independent mind.
But he's locked up and he can't go anywhere.
Correct.
His independent mind when he's locked up doesn't help him.
He's not going anywhere. He can't. His independent mind can't take him anywhere.
Okay, so that's the shaila. It's whatever it is. It's not a pasha what you guys are
Mind
saying.
could take him lots of places when he's tied up.
Yeah. Anyways, next Mishnah. So, Haisa Imedus B'Shus Harabim. Right. So this is already a famous case. Haisa Imedus B'Shus Harabim. She's standing with B'Shus Harabim, V'Zarkula, and he threw the get to her. Right. Meaning, it's her being kinded, even though we said before she can't pick it up off the floor. But here he's throwing it to her that her dalaramas, right? Her dalaramas should be kinded to her. Result looks car of law. If it's close to her, megareshes. Car of law ain't a megareshes. If it's close to him, it's not megareshes. Like we said, he can't tell her to pick the get off the floor. Mechza. Let's say it's mechza. Then we get back to she's divorced and she's not divorced, meaning she's a suffix. So therefore, she needs another get, right? She can't stay married to the guy, but she needs another get. Chayin kedushin, same thing. If he marries her, he throws her the ring. What?
He can't just kick it closer to her?
Maybe he could. I don't know. It could be. Chayin kedushin, v'chayin hachayiv. Same thing with kedushin, and same thing with the chayiv. Meaning, a guy comes to pay back his loan or whatever he owes, and he throws him the money, and then the money gets destroyed. So then the question is, how close does it have to be to the guy who's owed the money? All right, so if the Baal Chayiv said to him, now again, Baal Chayiv is not the way we call a Baal Chayiv somebody who owes money. Gemara's version of Baal Chayiv is he's the owner of the Chayiv, of the debt. So the Baal Chayiv says, Rakli Chayivi, throw me my Chayiv, what you owe me, and he throws it to him, Karav Lamalve. If it's Karav to the lender, Zacha he's Zaycha, Zacha Malva, the Malva is Zaycha in it. And then if it gets ruined, it's not his problem. Karav L'Loive, if it's closer to the borrower, Halayve Chayiv, Mechza al Mechza. I'm sorry, Halayve Chayiv, the Loive is Chayiv, Mechza al Mechza. Let's say it was halfway in between them, then Shneim Yachleiku, then they both have to split it. Good. So we have three cases here: kedushin, balchayv, and gerushin. What are you saying?
No, just to say, if you borrow money from Vinny Capadano, make sure when you pay it back, you give it to him. Don't do this trick with throwing it.
And if the Gemara or the Mishnah wanted to write the rules for football, this is how the rules would sound. Like you have to throw it, and if it's halfway between, they got to fight over it.
Okay. Big deal.
No, that's it's half a half. Fine. So Zok the Gemara. Hechi dami karav love. Hechi dami karav loy. What's the case? What's close to him? What's close to her? What's close to him? Amarav arba amas shalah zeu karav lo. If it's within 4 amas, that's close to her. Arba amas shaloi zeu karav loy. That's close to him. So Gemara says, okay, that's simple. If it's within your dalet amas, you're okay. Hechi dami mechza mechza. So how do you understand half if it's halfway between, which we have said is megareshes ve'ena megareshes? Amar of Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak going shahayu shneim amdim ba'arba amas. It's talking about with they're both standing in the same dalet amas, and then the get went in between them. So then it's megareshes and ena megareshes. So Gemara says v'lechsi heminayu kadem. Why don't we see who was first in that dalet amas, right? Meaning, if the whole reason dalet amas works, it's because a person's kind of himself, kind of the dalet amas that's around him. So then let's see who was the first person in this dalet amas, and then it should go to him. And if you're going to say they both came at the same time, they don't have anything. What?
No, and I just kept reading. Sorry.
Okay, then you can say they both came into the dalet amas at the same time. Right, that's a whole different issue. Can you be mitzamtzim? Can you get an exact measurement? Meaning it's not possible that they got there both exactly at the same time. Right?
What was the Havemin in the
Right, so that's the right? That's the kasha. If it's EF shalatzamtzim, so avada should be a suffix. Right? That's what you're asking, Zev. Right? If you're not, you can't know who came into dalet amas first. So avada. So Elo Amar of Kahana Hocha Beches Amas Mitzumtzimas is we're talking about where it was 8 exact amas. Right? Not any more and not any less. So each one had exactly the 8 amas on Tomid Beis. The Gam Yotzim Arba Amas Shaloi L'Dal Amas Shaloi. I'm sorry, get. The get goes from his Arba Amas to her Arba Amas, meaning this is really football, right? That football's halfway between the defense and the offense. Obviously, it's a good motion, right? So it's mamish in between both of them. So what are we going to do here? Because again, each one has their own dalet amas, and the ball, you need to bring out the chains, right, to measure. But it's the footballs on both sides, right? So the verse says, but how could that be? That's considered like it's as long as the get is partially by him. So then it's not considered in her neighborhood, in her dalet amas. So total different shot. We're talking about where there were 2 sets of Adam here. One said, I saw the get, it was closer to him. Right? And one of them said it was closer to her. Right, so that's his pshat, that it's totally that we have a machlokes amongst Adam. What he says is when it means close to her, it means that even if it's 100 amas, right? Even if it's 100 amas, meaning he's saying we don't care about measurements. Bottom line is who is it closer to? If it's closer to her, then even if it's 1,000 feet, or he says 100 amas, but even if it doesn't make a difference. As long as it's closer to her than to him, she gets it. If it's closer to him than to her, then it's not a get. So what's a pshat in this mechza? I was explained to me what Rabbi Yochanan said. Who yachal l'shamroi? He and yachal l'shamra. If he's able to watch the get, then it works. If she's not able to watch it, then it doesn't work. Zeu karav lai. That's called close to him. I should actually jump in at the touch again. Who yachol l'shamrei? If he's able to watch it, he ain't yachol l'shamrei, and she's not able to watch it. Zeu karav light. That's considered close to him, and it's not a good get. He yachol l'shamrei. If she's able to watch the get, but who ain't yachol l'shamrei? Zeu karav la. That's close to her. Shneim yachol l'shamrei, or shneim ain't yacholim. If they both can't watch it, or they both could watch it, zeu mechza mechza. That's mechza mechza. What do you want to say?
I wrote that as the last time, but it's not a joke. But if Haystacks Calhoun was married to Wilma Rudolph, or Jesse Owens was married to Kate Smith, so it's 50 feet away. Who's getting it first anyway? You know.
I only understood a couple of those people, but
no, you don't know those people.
I know a couple. I did.
On whose lines, so somebody understands them.
Yeah, we need a Pirish. Meaning he's saying that it depends on how fast the person could move. Right? Shouldn't it depend on how fast the person moves? Right? If you have a slow wife and a fast husband, or a fast wife and a slow husband, so then really they should be able to cover the ground faster. Right? That's basically what yeah. Okay, so fine. So Amrua Rabbana Kamed Rav Yochanan Mishmedu Rav Yochanan Hachi.
You could only have cultural references from the 2000s.
I don't know. We have to think about the rules.
Yeah. So Amrua, the Rabbanan said, Amrua Rabbana Kamed Rav Yochanan, in the name of Rav Yochanan Hachi. Right? Amar. So the Rav Yochanan said, Yadin Chaverin Bavloi Lefrushi Kiyai Taima. Do our friends in Bavel know how to explain this pshat? Right? Meaning he was very happy that they explained the pshat, because he agreed with that. That's pshat in the Mishnah. Exactly like this. Fine. Whenever it's closer to her than to him, and the dog came and took it, right? And the dog comes and takes it, then they're not divorced. So Gemara says, she's not divorced because a dog came and took the get. Does she have to go tintera, means to watch it b'tezel? Meaning, let's say she takes the get and then the get goes into the garbage. So she's not divorced. I mean, once she took the get, it should be fine. So what's the problem? If the get was closer to her, and then a dog took it, so why should the get not be a get? If it's closer to her than to him, or and if the dog would come and take it, and he would be able to watch it to make sure the dog doesn't take it, and she would not be able to make sure that the dog takes it, then she's not megareshes. Why? Because she doesn't have the ability to watch it. He does. Fine. So Amarle Shmuel, the Rabbi Yehuda. Shmuel said to Rabbi Yehuda, Shinana. Shinana normally means somebody who's smart. When the Mishnah says that it has to be karav law, it means close enough that she could bend down, like from the shtachave, and take it. Right? Va'at lo savid uvda adamati gitel yada. But you shouldn't do an avodah from this until the get actually gets into her hand. Meaning, basically, he's telling him the Mishnah really says that as long as it's close enough to her that she can bend down and take it off, which could be it's Daled Amos or not Daled Amos, I'm not sure, then it works. But he's saying that you shouldn't do that. This is like your classic, the halacha is like this, but don't do it. Yeah, so what?
He's saying you can do the neighborhood play, the baseball by the second base. The neighborhood play really works.
Meaning you don't have to be, have to be on the base. Correct. But he's saying don't do it. He's saying in the practical, don't paskin that way. Right? So the thing is, Taisus says, but this is Dafkin Rishus Haram. Taisus is right to the right from where we are. That's only in Rishus Haram. But in her Chatzar, then it doesn't have to reach her hand, which is sort of what Naftali was saying before. Right? Because as long as if it's her property, then that's fine. So there was a Maisa like this. where he put the get next to her, she had to bend down and take it up, and the Chacham said, no, chalitza. Right? Meaning they said even though there should have been a divorce, but they didn't want to paskin that way. So they paskin that she needs chalitza, which is interesting. They wouldn't paskin that ibum could be done because l'chayr it's a kosher get. But we're just chayshin not to say that cool. Fine. And the same thing by kedushin. We said all the same halachas apply for the get and for the kedushin, whether it has to be close to him, close to her, etc., etc. So Amar Rav Asi, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. The gittin amru v'laylo davar acher. We said it only for gittin and not for anything else, right? Meaning this whole thing of the get being close to her, not close to her, is only for gittin. Say, what do you mean? The Mishnah just said b'chein leinin kedushin. How are you saying that it only works for gittin, not kedushin? The Mishnah says b'chein leinin kedushin. There you go. It says v'yatza v'haisa. So kedushin, when we say it works for gittin, it also means that it works for kedushin, because it's yatza means she goes out, v'haisa means she goes in. So we always compare the two. Fine. Eisvei, they asked the kasha b'chein leinin hachayiv. Same thing by a chayiv. The malva, the lender says, throw me the money, and he throws it to him. Karav l'malva, zacha hamalva. That has to be a mistake, right? If it gets close to the lender, so the lender is seicha. Karav l'loiva, halayva chayiv. Mechza, shneim yachloiku, right? Same exact din. So you see that the same din by loans too, and the Gemara just said that it doesn't apply to loans. He said, give me my chayiv, and then you're going to be potter. Right? So the way Taisus explains it, that give it to me to the place, you have to at least throw it to me where I could watch it. So since it's in a place where he could watch it, therefore that's considered as if he gave it back. So Gemara says, remember, what's the chiddush? If the malva said, throw it to me over here, and that's enough, so what's the chiddush that he paid it back? Throw it to me as a get, right? Meaning it should have the same dinam as a get. So therefore, you might think, okay, so it's karav law, meaning all those things. So Gemara says, so what's the chiddush then? Right, of course it's the same. So Gemara says, "Ma'od the same in mishata nibach." Maybe the guy could say, "I was just pulling your leg." Mishata meaning like I'm making you like into a shaita. I think that's what the pshat is. Meaning, I was making jokes. I didn't mean it serious that I'm really going to accept the money. I was just playing with you. So Kamash Malan, that it's not a joke, and therefore if the loiva throws the money towards the malva, then it's done. And if something happens to that money, he is potter. Amar Rav Chisda, get biyada mashicha biyada. Let's say she has the get, and there's literally a string attached. He gives her a get with a literal string attached, right? So now is that considered like it's in her hand or not? So if the string is strong enough that he could just yank the get back out of her hands, then Ainim Megareshes. But if the string, it just has a string on it, but it's not strong enough to pull the get, then she is divorced. My time of being a krisus, because you need krisus, you need a total cutoff from the husband to the wife, and you don't have that. But lucky you don't have that. Amar Rabbi Yehuda, another case. I see other katafris. Let's say her hand was made like a katafris. Katafris means it was bent forward. Meaning she's waiting for her get, but her hands are bent forward so that when it goes into her hands, it's going to fall right out of her hands. And he throws it onto her hands. She's not divorced. Why? Because it's not in her hands, because her hands were bent in the wrong direction.
You don't automatically try to close your hand when someone throws something at you instinctively.
Not if you don't want to get divorced.
Then how does she know exactly what's happening? Somebody throws something, her husband throws something at her. She knows.
I don't know. You're right.
It's
You're
instinctive.
Right. Yeah, maybe she could do it on purpose or not on purpose. I don't know. But whatever it is, if it's like that, so the get is not a good get. So Gemara asked, he did tell her, but she wasn't holding it properly. So Gemara says, it's interesting you say that, because I was listening to a shir today on my drive in, and there was a shaila in the modern mikvahs in Lakewood. The women the mikvah ladies are saying the women don't know what the bracha is. They keep making mistakes. So they said they asked Rabbi Yashiv if they should have a print of the bracha in the mikvah, and Rabbi Yashiv paskin not to. So the mikvah ladies are telling him that maybe we have to rethink that because then they just don't know the bracha, so they're rethinking it. Okay, so same thing. Meaning she could, no, obviously not. But so this lady could be she's all prepped for the get. Bottom line is she has no idea how to hold her get. So the Gemara asks, "Samai ki nofel b'haramas idaka nofel." Right? They're asking a different question than you. They're saying, well, even if the get falls out of her hand, isn't it going to be in her dalet amas? So then it should be okay. So Gemara says, but the loy noch, it didn't fall. When it fell out of her hand, it never came to rest in dalet amas. When it fell out of her hand, a fire came and burnt it or blew it out. So
but that's mamish if it breaks the plane or not. It's mamish talking about
that. That's true. Break the plane is referring to football.
It's the ultimate sports stuff.
There you go.
It is. If she didn't make a football move holding it, or it broke the plane up to go on.
Yeah. 100%. So what says, but the light noch. Yeah. Well, listen, it's funny because I was going to talk about the immaculate reception where he pulled it off the ground mamish, but I said, you know what, when I was learning the daf a day or two ago, I was like, oh, this reminds me, like, take it off the ground, close to the ground. Now I said, I'm not gonna, I wasn't sure if it fit in, but I guess with tonight's sushtos we can maybe fit it in. Anyways, so Gemara says, maybe it's since it was in the avir of the dalet amas. He says it has to be on the ground of the dalet amas. Maybe as long as it's in the airspace. Tishrei the boy Rebbe Lazar, so then we can answer a shaila Rebbe Lazar had. Arba amas shomru yesh le'en avir or ein le'en avir. The arba amas that we said, does it also have avir or not? Meaning, when we're saying a person, the dalet amas is kind of for them. Does that include the airspace or not? Tishrei the ein lo avir. So we probably should hear that it doesn't have avir, right? Because we're saying that the get falls out of her hands and then it gets burnt or gets blown away or whatever it is. So it never went into her dalet amas. What do you mean? It went to the avir of her dalet amas. So my answer, so it's a proof that there is no avir of dalet amas. So my answer is talking about where she was standing on the edge of a river. Another very specific case. It was meant to be lost, meaning the husband throws her the get. Her hands are leaning forward, right? And it's going to fall into the water, right? It's going to fall into the water. So therefore, it was never in a situation where this get could have possibly been in her proper possession. So since it could never have been in her proper possession, therefore, their get was never a proper get. Okay, we'll stop over here. All right, the Olam should have themselves a fine night.